session, and there is no action that will be taken. And so our next order of business is to approve the minutes of the TIRZ board for October 13th, 2020.
This is Councilmember Villalobos. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for August. You said October 3rd?
October 13th.
Oh, October 13th, 2020?
Yeah.
Second.
I might have said something different, but yes, October. Okay, there's a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Next is item number 3, citizen comment period. Is there anyone who has signed up to speak?
No one has signed up to speak.
Okay. Seeing none, we will go to item number 4, consider impossible action. Discussion on TIRZ budget for 2021 and project and finance plan. Mr. Sellers, is that?
Sure, I will take that. TIRZ board, good evening. Every year, a TIRZ needs to take stock of where it is financially, and is also how it's progressing with the projects that's contained within its project and financing plan. As this board may recall, you approved a preliminary project and financing plan a year ago. It is time to update that as things have progressed. And so what I'm going to place on the screen here is just for a conversation of the project and financing plan, as well as the budget proposed for 2021. What we are planning on doing this evening is just going through the plan and making sure that this board is comfortable with it. If there are any amendments to make, we can talk those through, and then we will have one more TIRZ board meeting prior to the end of this calendar year, where we will have the final project and financing plan and budget for your consideration. This is an annual plan, so it does follow January through December. Here on the screen is the project and financing plan. What you'll see are several projects that have all been discussed openly, publicly, so I don't think they should come as any surprise. The budget dollar amount next to these plans or projects have been discussed. We have representatives here in the meeting from Lionheart, Momark, and I believe, Philip, are you on as well? I believe Philip is on for with Heroes Memorial Park project, or at least he was a little earlier. I'm not sure if he's still on. So those 3 projects, as well as item 4 here, is the Uptown Sportsplex. We had discussed openly the ability to craft a decent amount of money from each of the parks bond propositions. Both the county and the city's park bond propositions did pass, and the direction was to bring $7 million from each one of those propositions and place those toward this Uptown Sportsplex project. Now, that is money that has been approved, but yet not officially voted on by either entity to be parsed out in this way. This would be direction from the TIRZ board that we go back to each of the boards, the city and the county commissioners court, to basically engage in an MOU to define those dollars in this way. We do have a project that, again, we have discussed publicly multiple times. There was an RFP that was issued publicly for a Class A vertical office project within the Uptown area. At this point, we are not ready to bring that forward in any sort of a project and financing plan or the budget. But because it has been discussed, we did have it here without a budget amount. So you see the total estimate for the projects for this for the plan, and those may go through 2021 into 2022 and beyond. But from a planning standpoint, listed as $24.5 million. The funding sources are listed below. Again, having been discussed publicly, there's $750,000 of cash from TDS. There is a note below that there's also a $750,000 commitment for in-kind materials, services, product that we are still defining as part of the design phase. Not sure at the end of the day what that number will look like, which is why it's blank. The City of Kyle has general fund contributions that are basically, while the TIRZ itself is basically charging itself with revenue generation. Some of these projects are somewhat substantial, and the TIRZ is not able to carry those today. In the future, it will be able to, which is why these are all listed as reimbursements in the city's budget. So you'll see here that the funding source from the general fund, from the wastewater treatment plant, but from the general fund was $8.5 million. There was also a separate $1.75 million listed as a transfer into the TIRZ fund. And then the bond proceeds from the two propositions follow that. So for total funding, estimated funding of $25 million. So this being the extent of the project and financing plan proposed for 2021, I'm going to shift over to the budget. My little controls are right in the way. Oh, here we go. It's important to note that, again, the TIRZ is really a financing tool made up of 50% of the revenues generated from the TIRZ for property tax collection from both the city and the county. So that's a 50-50 TIRZ made up of property taxes. The beginning fund balance as of October 1st for this year was a deficit of $39,000. Estimated revenues as they will come in, I think in beginning in December. You can see, even though that it's a 50-50 TIRZ, because the two entities have different tax rates, this is the collected amount from each entity. So $500,000 and roughly $300,000 from the county, for total projected revenues of about $804,000. Estimated expenditures, small amount for administration and legal. The TIRZ board did enter into an agreement to fund the landscaping maintenance around the Hayes Performing Arts Center. So that dollar amount's listed there. And then we have a proposed budget transfer or reimbursement back to the city's general fund of $700,000. And basically that's what's anticipated for the TIRZ to be able to refund in this first year, plus a small contingency. So you can see the proposed budget is to end just about balanced there with a little bit of a surplus. So this is the proposal that we have come up with, and we are happy to answer any questions or take any feedback tonight that we can bring forward in December for your direction. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Scott? Okay. Hearing none, Scott, I guess we'll move on to 4, a brief update on design progress of the Central Park.
All right. With that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Stephen Spears with Milmark, who also is representing Lionheart. We'll walk through the project, and then we'll talk a little bit more about budget as part of the conversation as well. So, Stephen, go ahead.
Sorry. Good evening. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Great. I'm sharing my screen. Can you see the slideshow?
Yes.
Great. Oh, fantastic. Okay. Wonderful. Well, good evening. Thank you for allowing us to present the design development package overview of the Uptown Central Park. As Scott mentioned, my name is Stephen Spears, and I'm a principal with MG Cardinal, which is helping the city manage the design of the park and the cultural trail. But tonight's conversation will mainly be focused on the park. And sorry, there we go. Tonight's presentation, as I mentioned, will be about the design development package, which has been built from the master plan that we presented to you on April 30th, and the schematic package that was presented to you in late July. Design development is known as 60% level construction drawings, and so the information I'm going to share with you tonight is more of the graphic-oriented package, but moving toward more and more of the technical set, more of the true construction and other construction documentation type create. So tonight's agenda, I'm quickly going to go over the plan review. We're going to talk a bit about the playground, the pavilion, and finish up with some renderings. So just as a reminder, the Central Park shown here in the center of the Uptown area is approximately 1.6 acres. And it also includes the first 330 linear feet of the cultural trail, which is this red line here. The total cultural trail that connects the Heroes Memorial to Central Park is roughly just over 1,000 feet. So we're building approximately 1/3 of the cultural trail with this Central Park project. From the last presentations, you know that I always like to put up the goals, which we're not going to go over tonight, but there are 7 goals that help drive a lot of the decision-making process that you all have been a part of from the beginning. And so when we think about the schedule and where we are, we've accomplished a lot with you just here in 2020. We kicked off the programming almost exactly when the pandemic was hitting. And so we were able to move March, April, and through the summer and through master plan and schematic design, and tonight being in design development. The intent is by the end of the year, we will be in 90% level drawings. And then in February, we will have final design with the effort to put the project out to bid in February, with hopefully groundbreaking ceremony happening sometime in the month of March. So just as a reminder, this is the master plan rendering of the park. There has not been substantial design changes. The move from schematic design to design development is really adding content so that the design is getting refined. There's not big, bold changes anymore. And that the drawings are being prepared so the contractor, when it goes out to bid and when it goes under construction, will know how to effectively and accurately build it to health and safety standards. Since July, Councilmember Ellison, staff, and I have met with twice regarding the playground. What an amazing group of young citizens that you have in this organization. They were very engaging, asked a lot of questions, and it was really wonderful to be a part of that conversation. I want to go over a few items that we discussed specifically as it relates to the playground design with the focus of inclusive and adventure type play. So when we think about the playground, there's really these 10 values that we have surrounded ourselves with. The idea of security, site location, availability, exposure, aesthetics, age groups, user experience, play value, local community, and identity. And these 10 really go hand in hand. So, for instance, from a security perspective, that it has high visibility and transparency and easy to access, but yet safe because it's on the eastern side of the park. So we want children to be running out the street. So how are we defining those edges as an example? Or the exposure, the reality that we live in Texas and the sun is hot and relevant in the summertime. And so we want to make sure that we're providing adequate trees so it's a nice and comfortable place to be at even in the summertime. So these are 10 values that we're driving a lot of the decision-making efforts. But within the actual playground, there are 4 characteristics that are considered when discussing the word play. And I think that's one of the things that I want to focus on tonight, and we certainly focus on when we met with Kayak. So the 4 are physical, joy of movement, social and emotional, which is the joy of being together, cognitive, which is the joy in creating, is the joy of creating or making, actually doing things with your hands. And so you'll see in the following slides, these symbols showing up, the green, the blue, the orange, and the red coming up as I show you some different elements of the playground. But with the idea of inclusive play, there's also 6 principles that we wanted to incorporate as much as possible. That the inclusive play elements are accessible, they're multifunctional when possible, there's 360-degree design, which means that you can access it from all sides. That's equipped with diverse playground opportunities. That color is actually a means to help give direction and design signalization, again, using human sensory through color. And then special solutions for special needs when relevant. So in certain cases, we have to customize certain playground elements to ensure that these other principles are considered. So this is a diagram of the overall playground area. And what you'll see is all these different play elements, like the big octanet net thing that I'm going to describe here, or that you've seen, but go into more detail here in a bit. But you also see these dashed lines. Those dashed lines are really important on all the play features. Those are what's called the fall surface zone areas. Those areas have to be free from any obstruction, and they have to include a fall surface that if a child falls on, that they are not injured by. So there's a lot of consideration, and that's why we have a playground technical specialist on our team, just to make sure that we're covering all of those elements for you. So that's why those dash lines show up. So starting in the northwest, there's a mound with a series of slides and a climbing element. There's a seesaw in this area. You can see the ADA ramp actually getting up to the slides here. The octanet, which I'm going to talk about here in just a minute. And you can start to see some of these red arrows pointing to certain things. There's a sand pit, there's a mound with some climbing elements to it. Spinner bowls are very common and popular. If you have any children or been to playgrounds, you'll see that those are very popular. The bobcat sculpture, which we're going to get inside the bobcat sculpture tonight so you can see the insides of it. Some musical elements, actual chimes that you can hit with certain hammers to make noise. And then this collection that's really integrated all together. These are the 2 to 5 year old spinner bowls. So you want to try to incorporate certain elements from a cognitive or age skill level together. And then finally, the swing area here to the north, which I'm going to show you a bit about here shortly. So the octanet, there's actually, I'm going to show you the octanet in detail. I'm going to show you the bobcat in detail, and I'm going to show you the swing in detail. The octanet, as you can see, has 3 of the 4 colors showing up all over the place. It's very difficult to get all 4 of the play values together, the physical, the social emotional, the cognitive, and the creative all together. The bobcat does that because it's a custom element. We intentionally tried to do that. But you can see a bit about what's happening here with the varied climbing nets, the bounce nets. There's low entry points here and here. There's a berm that you can climb. Obviously, the cabins and the skywalk here from one cabin to the next. And so it offers a wide variety of play and experiences. The Bobcat, as we all have, I think, grown to love in some way or another, actually has all four of the play elements in there. You'll start to see the red, which is the creating play, start to show up here in these next slides. What's interesting about this is that we've actually refined this a bit more since schematic design, and you'll see it in the following slides about how you can actually see through the eyes. There's actually a voice chamber that you can speak through the mouth. You can roar through the mouth, I guess, if you wanted to. So it's really integrated, which we really are excited about. So this is the backside of the Bobcat. So it has two slides and a whole host of interior climbing elements, which I'm going to show you here shortly. So let's go inside. So this is what it looks like inside. And there's really three different areas for play. The first one being this bottom place here, which is this membrane to gather. You're kind of tucked in. You have to climb, or you have to crawl underneath the Bobcat to get into this space. The second one is getting up to the lower slide, and this is a transfer platform for a child that is in a wheelchair with assistance, that they can actually get to this slide. And then the third and final piece is this upper area, which you climb in from the ladder on the outside, and then you can get up into this chamber and yell out into the through the mouth, or you can actually see through the eyes. So we're really trying to make that as interactive and creative as possible. Here's another view of that. So down at the lower, or at that mid-level that I was talking about earlier, there's actually these window flat membranes. So you can open it up and yell at a friend and then close it, open and close it, that type of environment. The plastic tube, as I mentioned here, for children to climb up and yell in there, and the voice actually projects out of the Bobcat mouth. And then finally, the playground swing as another example. So the playground swing is set up for 4 different users. The bird's nest, which is the one on the left, the far left here, is set up for multiple children, as shown in the center image. The green swing that's next to it, or to the right of it, is set up for a parent or an adult to swing with a child, as you can see in the top image. And then there's 2 standard swings, and then the far right swing is designed for children who need assistance, as shown in the lower right-hand image. So we're really trying to provide that type of experience of swinging for all different groups. And so I just showed you 3. We actually have all of this for every single piece of equipment, but when you stack it all up, this is what your playground program looks like. So overall, the playground design hits on all 4 of those play values. As I mentioned, it's very difficult to hit all 4 components with each piece of equipment. The overwhelming majority of the play, both ADA and inclusive certified, which you'll start to see these certifications showing up over here. The ADA inclusive, or the regular inclusive. These are different third-party certifications that each play element gets. So we wanted to make sure that that was fully vetted in the design process. And here's a couple images from schematic design. And remember, the mouth is open now and you can see through the eye, so they're not exactly the same, but I just wanted to recall these images that I had shared with you in late July. So let's move on to the material and context, because this is a new part that I wanted to quickly share with you. So the next part of the presentation will be focusing on the pavilion and the water feature and cultural trail, and how all of that comes together. It's a great collection of design inspiration that makes up the space, building from the materials and the architectural quality and vision for the entire district. It really speaks to this idea of complementary and soft and earth tone colors, but then also being able to have richness of colors at key moments, especially the richness of green. And so this is a quick study model, or a 3D model of the design as it is today, looking a bit at the pavilion, the water feature, the social games area, and then this enclosed building space, which includes the bathrooms, mechanical and electrical room. You can see the cultural trail on the back here. So this is another view looking from the edge of the park, inside the park and looking south or southwest. You can see the water feature here. So remember, at certain times, this water feature can be still and reflective. Certain times it's a pop-up jet interactive, and certain times you can actually push a button and it will drain away and it becomes a dance floor for an event, which I'm going to show you an image of here later on. On the opposite side of that, this is the social games area. So tables and chairs where people can play and gather, perhaps ping pong table, access to the restrooms. Really great collection of color choices here with the reddish orange and the green together. And then finally, another view of that same space accessing into the bathroom area here. So this is the access into the bathrooms for the park, as well as the mechanical and electrical room. And then this material here along this face is actually a metal wall panel that will have a chalkable finish application. And some of our thoughts with that, by having a chalkable, and we talked about this in the master plan, of people being able to draw and be creative with chalk, but we also thought it'd be a really interesting way for the TIRZ to be able to advertise. So you could write out, movie in the park Friday night, 7 p.m., or concert series every Wednesday night at 7 p.m., or farmer's market Saturday morning, 9 to 12, those type of things. And so it gives you a chalkboard. We've all been to restaurants before that use chalkboards for their menus. So it's kind of that same idea that you can actually be able to change that out rather easily for different events or happenings that are occurring within the district. So I want to conclude with 3 renderings of the park. The first 2 are one schematic design. So this is of the cultural trail, the market space, the pavilion that we just discussed, the interactive water feature turned on in front of the pavilion, as you can see here. The second view that you also saw at schematic design is roughly the view from the Bobcat. This is what you'd be looking at if you were inside the Bobcat looking out. So the views to the farmer market, the cultural trail, people dining and gathering in the pavilion, children playing in the waterfall water feature. So it's really active. And then finally, I leave you with a new rendering, the bird's eye view looking west across the park. Notice the large playground. The stage is used for a performance, and people are dancing on the lawn and dancing on where the water feature is in front of the stage because it's dry. The market's starting to wind down. People are connecting with each other. This park has the opportunity to be a signature destination for the citizens of Kyle to connect with family and friends and to enjoy that quality of life that makes Kyle so special. So with that, I'll conclude and answer any questions that you all may have.
There any questions from anyone? This looks awesome. Every time I see it, it's just, wow. It's amazing.
I do have a question, Chairman. And this is Tracy Shield. Do we think that is enough swings for all the different, kids who could be swinging? Especially since we only have 2 for what looks like, conventional swings.
Yeah, Tracy, thank you for that question. That's a really wonderful question. We have gone back and forth on this park program or this playground program to provide as many variety of options as possible. And one of the things that we concluded and why we feel comfortable with that number is because there's also a seesaw. Let me see if I can actually point to it here. This is a seesaw system. So it obviously is not a swing, but it's similar to sort of that moving back and forth. And the seesaws obviously go up and down, front, back. But we feel between this and then the swings that will be enough. The other thing that we have noticed in just observing play is how many people use the bird's nest because it holds, it can hold one child or it can hold 3 or 4 child. And so those are elements that I guess we're just trying to provide as much variety as possible.
And I understand that and appreciate it. Is there room if we needed more conventional swings? Would there be room to add them if needed?
Possibly. I'm going to flip to another slide or go back to a slide and show you what's happening with swings. So see this dashed line? That's the fall surface zone that you have to keep clear just for the swing set right here.
Okay.
So swings are catch-22. I mean, I love them. They're great. But they require the largest footprint because the way that it's calculated is that however tall it is, you have to go out wide twice the distance in each direction because when a swing swings out, I hate to say it, but you have to anticipate the trajectory if somebody falls when they're swinging. The playground at the Children's Museum here, I believe, has 2 swings, just as a point of reference.
Okay.
But it's a great question. It's something that we've wrestled with because, we're all fans of playgrounds, and we started with a was much larger, and then obviously we had to keep narrowing it down.
Right.
Time.
Okay. I just was wondering because I know in our HOA park we had to add more conventional swings just because that was the need, and that's why I was asking.
That's a great question. I will take one more look at it with the team just to see if we can sneak another one in there if possible. Because of that comment, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Philip, this is Councilmember Rizzo. Can we get this presentation emailed to us? I know Commissioner Jones is on his phone. I think he'd like to see these renderings. So if you could email them to all of us, it'd be great.
Yes. Yes, I can. There will be a link sent tonight to Scott that will include the entire design development package. So the technical package, which is the design development level construction drawings, the specifications, the signage package, and then the graphics package as well. So then there'll probably be 5 files in that all in that you all will be receiving.
Thank you, Philip. Steven, sorry. Sorry, Steven. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
We're getting late into the evening.
I take it as a compliment. That's okay.
That was cool.
TIRZ board, this is Scott. I wanted to shift this conversation just a little bit into the engineer or designer's estimated budget for the project. We've had several conversations recently about this project along with the cultural trail. In the past, I know we've talked about the Heroes Memorial Park with the budget that was anticipated. As we're progressing through the designs and moving closer to the construction documents, that's when the cost estimates become a lot more real. And both sides have done that now. Philip is on the call with Nudge Designs. Again, Stephen here on the call. Now that we're really getting to this construction document set, it's a good opportunity to go back, analyze the budget from where the initial estimate is, and to see where we fall, if we're short, or if we're right on line. So based on conversations we've had this week, I know Stephen wants to talk a little bit about the budget for the park and the cultural trail.
Sure. Scott, would you like for me to go ahead and get started on that?
Let's hit it now. If you can just do a overview of where you are.
Sure. In the budget that Scott shared with you, I believe item 3 of the agenda, it outlined $4 million for the park and $2 million for the trail. What we're finding is, so in that combined $6 million number, what we're finding is that the trail itself is closer to $1.5 million, at least in our estimates, and the park is closer to $4.5 million. But remember that the construction budget for the park includes the first 1/3 of the trail. And so that puts it at about $5 million. When we add our contingency to that number, we're currently sitting at about 5.25, actually closer to $5.3 million at this point in time in design development. And that would include the park and that first leg of the cultural trail, which is that southern side of the park, which again is this stretch here on the screen. So the entire southern boundary of the park is the first leg of the cultural trail. And so I guess to conclude with that, or in an overview, it looks like we're sitting at approximately $300,000 over where we would like to be. I want us to continue to tighten in the drawings, perhaps even shoot closer to more like $500,000 in savings, just to give us a little bit of comfort moving into when the project goes out to bid. Scott and I have been talking about different ways to help the city along with getting tighter numbers. And Scott, if I can, I'd like to go ahead and just quickly mention to the TIRZ board the idea that we've been discussing about bidding the cultural trail, bidding the park, the Heroes Memorial together as one project. So therefore it's a larger budget, and we're likely going to get more competitive, or the city's likely to get more competitive bids because it's a larger package of a construction budget. And we think that will help bring more competition and the numbers for both benefit of the Heroes Memorial and the cultural trail and park.
If we did that, how would that affect the timing of the Veterans Memorial, the Heroes Memorial being open and built?
I think I'll defer to Philip on the specifics with that, but I actually don't think that it will cause problem, especially if we write that into the into the bid documents about certain deadlines that we want to have happen for the Heroes Memorial. I mean, that's just a prerequisite, no different than they have to submit monthly pay applications. We would intentionally write that in about where the priority lives, if that's what is desired by the city and the TIRZ.
Mm-hmm.
What happens in a situation like this when you have a larger budget is that not only will you likely get more competitive bids, but you also get companies that have more human power to make sure that they can deliver the project on the schedule that is desired by the city and the TIRZ. Whereas if it's a smaller budget, not to say that the Park and the Heroes Memorial alone are smaller budgets, but together they're obviously a greater number. And so that will help, or we believe that that will help bring in more oomph to the construction team to make sure that it gets done and more competition in the bidding process.
Councilmember Rizzo, I guess my concern would be when you put the two projects together, I feel that maybe sometimes we might pull from one project to speed up another project and maybe even lessen the other project. Is there any possibilities of that? Because that's something I don't want to see anything to slow down the Heroes Memorial or bring down the budget price on that memorial.
Right. That's a great question. This is an idea that Philip and Scott and I have been talking about. So I think there's probably some more vetting that we need to do to make sure that works. What we're talking about is, roughly having a project that would go out to bid that would be more in the budget realm of, I think, $9 million versus two individual projects going out, roughly half of that for each of them. And so
I get that. I'm just worried about I guess the timelines really scare me as well, because I want to make sure that our project is at the Heroes Memorial Park is done in a timely manner. I just both projects are very important, but I think we're further along on the Heroes Memorial Park maybe than we are with this. What do you think? Your thoughts, Stephen?
Yeah, and actually we're actually just right on the exact same path. Both teams will have their 100% construction drawings ready on the 1st of February.
Good, thank you.
We've tried to time that as much as we can.
Right.
Thank you, Stephen.
This is Philip. Real quick, can you guys hear me?
We can.
Hey, so a couple of things. I think the simplest analogy for it is think about it as 4 quarters. And so quarter 1 is all about delivering, kind of that phase 1 opening for the Memorial Park. And then the sort of quarters 2 and 3 are sort of a combination of the two projects, probably, where they can move their earth subs and their underground subs over. And then quarter 4 is more focused on the Civic Park. So I think there's a real path there that they can keep subs moving and not disrupt the productivity for the kind of phase 1 opening of the memorial. I think that's a real possibility. The other thing I'll point out is that, as Stephen mentioned, the horsepower that you'll get from that larger contractor is probably pretty significant compared to some of the interest you'll get as individual projects. I don't think that can be understated in terms of getting things done.
Okay.
I'll tell you this: the enemy for schedule, if we're worried about it, is going to be bidding and contracting. So getting our team ready to go through the bidding process and getting our internal team ready to have a contract ready to execute that everyone's excited about. That is actually, to me, going to be probably what we should be most alert to in terms of timing, because that's actually what keeps us from starting. So, that's kind of my 2 cents on actual risk with delivery.
Yeah. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you for bringing that up. One of the things that Philip and Scott and I have inevitably started doing is to hone in on what the procurement process needs to be, because these projects are going to be TIRZ projects. There are procurement processes that need to be followed. What is the city's process for advertising for bid? What is their bonding requirements? What are the insurance requirements? And making sure those are commonly known as front-end documents. If you hear us talk sometimes, we'll talk about the front end documents, which are the non-technical specifications. It's more about how the project gets advertised, bid, set up, and how the contract is actually organized. Those are processes that have to be blessed through the city, because those are city those are city processes or TIRZ processes, whereas other parts of the specifications might deal with what's the PSI for concrete. I'm not sure you all care about that as a city, as long as it obviously is, dense and certainly works over time, whereas our structural engineers do care about that. So it's those front end documents and really making sure that gets all set up early. Not that it can't be done, it's just that these are the first projects TIRZ is done. And so we want to make sure that it gets done appropriately and accurately.
Correct.
If I can jump in, it might be a good time to transition into item number 5, since I think that's very germane to answering this question. And that's the discussion of the owner's rep.
Okay, so number 5 is consider impossible action to direct staff to issue a request for proposal for an owner's representative for the police headquarters, Central Park, and Heroes Memorial projects.
Stephen, do you want me to take the first swipe at it?
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay. I'm not sure how many members of the board have had experience working with the owner's rep. I know that the city of Kyle has not worked with one specifically on a project since I believe the library was constructed. As we have several very large projects moving forward, all in the same vicinity, we thought it would be a good idea from a budget and a timing standpoint to wrap them up under one contract for an owner's representative, which is basically a project manager, a firm that can come in understanding the timeline of the board, in this case, as well as the city council on the public safety facility, and can keep each of those projects on time and under budget. Now, typically, though, we would find an owner's rep through a traditional RFQ process. Their fees, on average, 3% or so of the total construction amount. Sometimes it's based on construction costs. Sometimes it's based on proposed time and materials. But because these are very large projects, the cost does add up for the owner's rep. Just on these two, where we're looking at 10.5, maybe $11 million when all is said and done of construction estimate. Having an owner's rep at 3% does add to the budget. It is my experience, and I believe pretty common, and Stephen and Philip can jump in here and back me up on this, is that every time an owner's rep does get involved, they usually shave a good 5 to 10%, if not more, off of the final construction cost. They're usually right in, negotiating deals with the contractor. They're on site overseeing the project. They're having ongoing meetings with TIRZ board, with any sort of task force or public meeting that needs to be held. So this is the group that we would hold accountable, and then they would turn around and hold the contractors accountable for each of these projects. So one of the ideas for combining the park, cultural trail, and Heroes Memorial would be that it would be an easier opportunity for an owner's rep to get in there and basically hold a larger contractor accountable, who has the wherewithal to do the several projects at the same time. With that, Stephen, if you want to go into a little bit more detail of what we had discussed, be great.
Sure. Thanks, Scott. The only other thing that I would add to what Scott was saying, and Scott, I thought that was a really strong overview. The three things from a savings perspective that I've experienced with having an owner's rep / project manager is that they save on time management, they save in cost management, and they save in quality management. So time, cost, and quality are three things that I've personally have experienced when I've had, or we've had an owner's rep be involved. And so if it is the desire of the TIRZ board to proceed, what Scott and I were conceptually laying out as an idea is that later on this month, an RFP would be generated and released to firms that do this type of work. And then in December, we would have interviews. And then before the December TIRZ meeting, we would give you Scott would give, I keep saying this is a city effort. Scott would give you the recommendation of the firm that the city would like to go into contract with, and then between that meeting and the January meeting, the contract would be negotiated and presented to you for the January TIRZ meeting, so that firm could then immediately be signed up in preparation of the project going out to bid in the first part of February. And I hope that in that process, if we're able to have a owner's rep involved, then that would help alleviate some of those concerns that rightfully so Councilmember Rizzo had brought up earlier on as it relates to proper procurement, proper contract negotiations, proper priorities, to Philip's point of the 4-quarter approach, to ensure that Heroes Memorial first phase is on time and obviously on budget, even while other parts of the project may happen, if you all decide again to move forward with the approaches that we've outlined tonight.
And just to go back to the budget conversation, we could be looking at $1 to $1.5 million of construction estimate on these projects, over budget at this point. And again, they have not been bid, so these are just estimates. Having some owner's representative, they're creating, helping craft, negotiate those bid documents, going through the bid process, and then whittling down, a final bid with a contractor could bring those estimates significantly lower and keep us much closer to the budget. And that's ultimately really what my hope would be, as well as to keep us on time, because I know we have a very aggressive time frame.
Yeah. And Scott, I'll just say in my experience, and I'm talking mainly, one project in particular, our government center, by bringing a program manager on, we saved millions and millions of dollars on that project. And they were well worth the money that we paid them.
And Scott, I'll just agree with what Commissioner Inglesby said. We used them on our Precinct 2 building. And like you said, saved us money, and then we use them on all our bond projects. I know I talked to you, when the city had your all 5 bond projects, I highly recommended that y'all have a project manager. I think looking back, it'd probably been a good idea.
And Scott, I just have one. I just have one quick question. About how much will we be budgeting for that project manager? I understand that hopefully we'll be saving a lot of money with them, but how much will we need to probably budget for that person about, do you think? An estimate?
It's been my experience that 3 to 5% of the total construction cost is about right from a budget standpoint. Again, if we can find a firm or draft the RFP in such a way that we're doing it more on a time basis, basically a man-hour basis and an overall construction estimate, then I think we'll be better served because of the very aggressive nature of each of these projects. The other question, again, this is the TIRZ board, obviously, where we have our projects and the project and financing plan. But if we did bring forward the public safety center as part of the overall package, it could bring the cost down further for all the projects. That's probably to be determined, and it's really dependent on how we draft that proposal as well.
Okay, thank you.
And Scott, there may also be a lot of competition for that project management right now in the environment we're in.
Yeah, great point.
Good point.
I like where Mark is going with that. So negotiations, but let's make sure we're getting someone quality, but definitely let's try to see if we can get a good price.
Okay, so this is an action item, Scott?
Yes, ma'am. So you would be directing us to create and issue that RFP, and then we would bring that back just as soon as the timelines within that RFP made sense to do so.
Okay. So if there's no other questions, is there a motion to move forward with staff?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to
Second.
Okay, so there is a motion and a second to, I'm not certain.
Villalobos.
Okay. To direct staff to issue a request for proposals for an owner's representative for these projects that are listed. Is there any other discussion?
Stephen, can you just remind us the estimated due date of that RFP and when the award would come back to the TIRZ board?
Yes, I'm happy to do that. The intent would be that the RFP would be released later on this month. I'm not sure when the December meeting for the TIRZ would be, but the interviews would need to happen prior to that. So sometime before your next TIRZ meeting. And that's when you would make the recommendation of whatever firm is decided. And then that would allow you December or between the December meeting and the January, negotiate that contract and bring that in front of the TIRZ board at the January meeting, so that firm would be signed up in order to assist the TIRZ in the city and the consultant teams in putting the project out to bid, immediately rolling right into that initial effort, which is the construction bidding process.
It's a pretty quick turnaround.
Time is of the essence in this situation.
It'll be essential to hit that.
What was that comment?
What did you say, Philip?
I said it will be essential to do that. And we have to have that person in place February 1st for us to keep the Heroes Memorial on track.
Thank you, Philip.
Okay, if there are no further comments or questions.
Comment.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner. So I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in here. I've been weighing this idea of the owner's rep. I think that there's a lot of different things at play. I know Stephen and Philip know this about me. pressing the timeline and moving things as quickly as possible, and even sometimes getting ahead of the timeline has been a key thing I've spoken to him about. But quality and getting the project that we really want to see and what we've seen from our great architects and designers actually come to fruition is the other part of it. I think that, me personally, I think that what will pay the owner's rep and what they will save will, in my mind, kind of be a wash. So I don't really see it as much as a cost savings. That's me personally. Where I do see the benefit is the quality of the project and the time, personally. And that is in lockstep of what I've been pressing for when I've had my discussions with Stephen and Philip in the past. So while I was on the fence about the owner's rep initially, I do see the benefit here, and certainly getting the project to exactly where we have wanted it. While I do think Stephen and Philip have met every objective and every goal that we've put forward to them, I think that this could be an extra benefit for us as a board. So with that being said, I'll be in favor of this. And I think that the comments from Stephen and Philip are very convincing of how this can be beneficial to that. And once again, they know how I feel about this project and getting it going as soon as possible and as quickly as possible. I will say too, obviously, I've seen that presentation you did tonight. Even before, it's phenomenal. I love hearing you talk about it. I could listen to you talk about it all evening. I think you and Philip have done an exceptional job on both of these projects. And I think this community and the extension of this county is going to benefit greatly from it. So I'll be voting for this.
Thank you, council member. Any other comments? Okay, if not, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, if not, it passes. Thank you all very much. Okay, our next item is discussion on meeting date for December.
Madam Chair, that's why my question to Stephen really did try to get us moving forward on a solid date for our next meeting. We were originally targeting a little earlier in the month, but I think hearing Stephen and the timeline, I guess I'd like Stephen just to give us his understanding from a scheduling perspective when the best time for us to have that meeting would be.
Organizing meetings in December is truly threading the needle. I don't want to take on this responsibility, but it's so difficult. The later on in the month of December, the better. That will give the city more time to issue the RFP and also set up interviews and actually have the interviews. I wish I could say this specific date, but I have not checked with everyone's calendar. But if you could think about it, at least being the middle of the month at the earliest, I think that would be helpful. I mean, everyone knows how difficult December is. Mm-hmm. But to Philip's point, and just to reiterate, the rightful comments that Councilmember Rizzo had pointed out, getting that person or that team involved to help get this project bid and contracted with the TIRZ appropriately is so essential to get the mobilization to start that first phase of construction going. And in the development world, we often talk about what's the best alternative. And so I'm glad that you all voted for this. But so in my mind, I was thinking, if not this, then what? Because it's such an extraordinary effort that's going to happen here. starting in the first quarter of 2021.
Hey, Stephen,
Yes.
this is Travis. Yeah, I just want to say I appreciate those comments. I have a thought on the scheduling. Do you think you could give us a week range? Because I think what we should do is table it for now and then give you a chance to get the timeline kind of more in your head based on your scheduling of these interviews. And then we can come back and Scott can reach out via email. We'll have, a lot of variables at play. So I think that would probably work best.
Yeah, I was going to say pretty much the same thing, because we also have 2 council member elects that will be on the board instead of myself and Alex. So their schedule is important as well.
Yeah, so we'll have to do it via email, and we can wait a few days if you would like to try to figure or get some more clarity on your end, Stephen.
I would. Thank you. And this is an RFP process that will need to be run through the city, and we as the developer are of Uptown are more than happy to help out how we can. And so I will be assisting Scott as much as we can on this. So Scott, perhaps tomorrow morning you and I can talk first.
Yeah,
and write out a schedule of critical path.
absolutely.
Okay. It's a good plan. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else? I think we're through our agenda. We've done executive session. Anything else, Scott, that you can think of?
No, ma'am. That should be it.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank y'all so much.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night,
Yeah.
everyone.
Thank y'all.
Take care.